Hello children. Hello children. Welcome to VKSS Physics Clinic. And today's topic will be nuclear energy. We are going to discuss a very important topic today called nuclear energy. And this topic deals with the release of energy in all the processes where nuclear transmutation takes place or transformation inside the nucleus takes place. Okay? In fact, children, we have studied that whenever there is a mass defect, then energy is released, and this energy is calculated according to Einstein's mass energy equivalence is equal to delta m into c square. Right? Now, delta m is the mass defect. In nuclear reactions, just like chemical reactions, nuclear reactions, in fact, in nuclear reactions, the atomic number and mass numbers are always conserved. Mean the total atomic number of the reactant side will be equal to total atomic number on the product side. Same will go for the mass numbers. The total mass number on the left will be equal to total mass number on the right. Means number of protons and neutrons will be conserved throughout these reactions. Keep this in mind. So, whenever there is any transformation inside the nucleus, then energy is released. Now, the question is, how does this transformation inside the nucleus take place? It can take place in two ways. First way is, a larger nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei. For example, suppose you have a large nucleus out here. This is a large nucleus, and this large nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei. This is a smaller nuclei, for example. Large nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei. Whenever this situation will present itself, where a large nucleus breaks down to smaller nuclei, some mass defect will always be there. So, mass defect will be there, then energy will also be produced, right? And this energy produced in a nuclear reaction is denoted by Q value or Q factor. And Q value is nothing but energy released delta m into c square. And you already know that if mass defect is calculated in AMU, then we can also write Q is equal to delta m into 931.50 million electron volt. So, we are saying that nuclear energy can be realized in two ways. First way is, a larger nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei. I'll write it here. A larger nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei. Now, this is the first case. Now, these nuclei will be of comparable masses. Now, the other possibility is, here this is case 1, larger nucleus break down into smaller nuclei. Case 2 will be, in fact, when you have smaller nuclei, it is the reverse of the first process. This is a smaller nuclei. They are combining together to form one large nucleus. So, for realizing the nuclear energy, we must have mass defect, and mass defect will be realized when case 1, a large nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei, or case 2, smaller nuclei in larger number, they combine to form a greater or a bigger nucleus. So, in both the cases, there will be mass defect and will have energy. So, the second case is, smaller nuclei combine to give one single large nucleus. In both the cases, there will be mass defect. Once again, we can have mass defect either when a large nucleus breaks down into smaller nuclei or smaller nuclei combine to form a bigger nucleus. Both cases mass defect will be there and energy will be released, and this energy released in nuclear reaction is called Q value or Q factor, and it can be calculated in the formula Q equal to delta m into c square, or if mass defect is given in atomic mass unit, then directly you can do delta m. Obviously delta m here has to be in atomic mass unit multiplied by 931.50 million electron volt will be the quantity in which will be unit in which will be calculating the value of Q. Now when a larger nucleus breaks down to smaller nuclei, it happens under the influence of certain nuclear projectiles like neutrons. We will be discussing that, and we call it nuclear fission. We call it nuclear fission, we will be discussing. So this first situation leads to what we call is nuclear fission. We will be defining and we will be studying this extensively. A larger nucleus breaking down to smaller nuclei is called nuclear fission. The other one, in which smaller nuclei are combining together to form a larger nucleus, like this one, in fact, is called fusion. It's called what? Nuclear fusion. So we'll be discussing both of these situations and under what conditions it may take place, right? So we'll start our discussion with what is nuclear fission. Okay. Okay, children. So we'll be discussing what is nuclear fission, and you must understand this in detail and ask questions if you have difficulty. What is nuclear fission? See, if you go by the average binding energy graph, then we have done this graph. This is average binding energy in million electron volt per nucleon, and this is mass number. You have seen that these are peaks. Then this is at 8.5, 8.8 decreases and comes down like this. This is 7.6 for mass number 230. This is 7.6. If you remember this, when the mass number is beyond 230, then average binding energy starts climbing down below 7.6 MeV per nucleon. And this makes the nucleus very unstable, because if you remember the graph for nuclear forces, you have seen the graph is like this, right? And you know from this graph that when the nucleons will come too close, then the force among them becomes repulsive. You can see we are going up now. We discussed this. This is R0, which is nearly 0.8 for me, and then the force starts decreasing, and here force is repulsive. So when the nucleus is very big, having atomic mass number of 30, means sum of the number of protons and neutrons, means total number of nucleons and nucleus is 230, which makes the nucleus very densely packed. Something like this. They are very densely packed, something like this. So when the nucleons will be too much densely packed, then this graph tells us that the net force inside the nucleus will become repulsive. Will become repulsive, then the nucleus is already in a state where it wants to gain stability. So how it can gain stability? It can gain stability if it could come this side of the graph, not this side. Meaning, if the distance among the nucleons could be slightly increased, means if this could be made something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, meaning you can see the nucleons are what? More separated. So this will tend to gain probably a range of what? R0, the distance between two nucleons, so that will make the nucleons stable. In a nutshell, when the mass number becomes large, then the nucleus come very close together and force becomes repulsive, and therefore the nucleus tends to become unstable. In the second one wall, the research about nuclear fission was at its peak when Hitler was being defeated at all war fronts, and his scientists were looking for an ultimate solution, ultimate weapon. Then Otto Hahn and Strassmann, along with many other physicists, in fact, they discovered that when uranium-235 isotope was bombarded by using a neutron, Then the nucleus of uranium-235 captured neutron and broke down into smaller fragments of barium and krypton, and then a huge amount of energy was released, right? So that was the first experimental evidence of what exactly could happen when you break up a nucleus, a larger nucleus, into smaller fragments, and it is called what? Nuclear fission. So let's first define what is nuclear fission. When large amount of energy is released. This phenomenon is called fission. So children, basically the breaking down of a nucleus under the influence of bombardment by neutron is called nuclear fission. Now, why we use only nuclear? Anyway, so why we use only neutron for this? There is a very good question, and there is also an equally good reason. See, nucleus contains protons and also it contains neutrons. Neutrons are what? Neutral particles. They do not have any charge on it. This is the scenario of the nucleus. It has a positive charge distributed throughout, which is proton, and it has got neutral particles called neutrons. Now, if I want to break down this nucleus, suppose I fire an alpha particle toward the nucleus, then alpha particle carries what charge? Positive charge. As the alpha particle will approach, you have seen in Rutherford's experiment, it cannot penetrate the nucleus because the repulsion will be so huge it will recoil. I cannot use a proton to break up the nucleus again. Why? Because the reason is the proton will be repelled, electrons cannot be used. So the only particle which can be used to shatter or to break the nucleus is neutron. Why? Because neutron carries no charge. So if an uncharged particle will approach the nucleus, if a neutron will approach the nucleus 0 and 1, then it will be in a very good position to break up the nucleus provided it has enough energy, because there will be no repulsion. It will go through the what? Protons without any repulsion at all, and they will help us in breaking the nucleus more easily, right? This phenomenon. So that's why we use neutrons. Why use neutrons? Because neutrons are neutral particles, they don't carry any charge. So therefore there will be no electrical interaction with the nucleus, right? This phenomenon was discovered by Otto Hahn and Strassmann, like I said. In Germany, uranium-235 isotope was bombarded by using a neutron, and then uranium-235, which is already coming in this group, transuranic element, which is highly unstable because its every nuclear binding energy is very low. It breaks down into smaller fragments. First fragment is barium. In fact, many possible fragments will come, but this is the most likely fragment. So we'll be discussing this. Plus 3 neutrons and about 200 million ton volts of energy is released in this reaction. Okay, so this is example of nuclear fission in which we are bombarding neutron on uranium-235, and uranium-235 is breaking down into barium, krypton, 3 neutrons, and 200 million ton volts of energy is being released in the process. Clear? There are many more possibilities, but this is the most likely process that happens when you carry out the reaction. Now you may have a question, is it necessary to use only uranium-235? No, we can use uranium-238, but we don't use it because it does not undergo fission very easily. It is not a very good fissile material, right? We can use uranium-233. This is a good one. We can use this one. This is also what? Highly fissile like uranium-235. This occurs around 3%. This occurs around 3% in nature. This occurs only about 0.7% in nature. And the rest, about 97%, is 238. around 97%. But uranium-238 is not a very fissile material, does not undergo fission. You can see something like this, like a dry wood and a wet wood. A wet wood wood will not be burning very easily, but dry wood will burn very easily. Something like that. Okay. So uranium-238 is not used because it is not fissile. It is fissile, but it is not a good fissile material. It does not undergo fission very easily. So, you will prefer to have what? Uranium-235. But again, uranium-235 deposits are very low. It is only about 0.3%, which is very low. So, we take uranium-238 or ordinary deposit of uranium, and from there we process through chemical means or centrifugal means to separate uranium-235 from bunch of other isotopes. This process is called enrichment. What do you call it? Enrichment. So, enrichment is basically conversion of non-fissile material into uranium-235. Okay? And now, when you have enriched uranium, then there is nothing like it. 1 kilogram of uranium-235 can produce as much of energy as almost what? 4 to 5 tons of coal which we have. So, where is 1 kilogram of uranium and where is 4 to 5 tons of coal? You can see the scale. So, obviously, the amount of energy released is very large. Now, how much energy is released? How this magic figure of 200 million ton volts comes, we will be seeing it once by using mass defect. Children, if we want to see how Q factor comes to be 200 million ton volts, we can easily do. Atomic mass of uranium is 235.0939. Neutron, as you already know, 1.0087 AMU. Barium is 140.9139. Krypton is 91.8973. And neutron is 3.0261. Clear? If you add up all this, then the total mass of this side comes 236. So, children, these are total masses on the left, the reactant side, and these are total masses on the right, that is product side. So, mass defect comes, therefore, mass defect will be, delta will be masses of reactants 236.0526 minus 235.8373. Okay. So, this will be 0.2153 AMU. So, that means in this fission reaction, this much mass defect has taken place. So, where is this mass going? It is being converted into energy. So, therefore, what will be Q factor? Delta M into 931.50 and 0.2153 into 931.50, and this will be nearly 200 million electron volt. So, you can clearly see that a very large amount of energy is released in this nuclear fission reaction. Clear? Now, this nuclear fission reaction in fact releases such a huge amount of energy that it will be a beautiful way for us to have a small amount of uranium and use it to fulfill our needs for a very long time, right? Interesting thing in this reaction is that for starting this reaction we require a neutron. This neutron has to be captured by the nucleus. When the neutron gets captured by the nucleus, then the rest of the reaction will take place. When the reaction takes place, then it generates 3 more neutrons. How many more neutrons it generates? One nucleus is here. You break it up by using a neutron, how many more neutrons being produced? 3 more neutrons being produced. Now, these 3 more neutrons, if they are captured by the nucleus, they can break up 3 more nuclei, and the number of neutrons will go on expanding exponentially, and as the number of neutrons will go on increasing exponentially, then the fusion will also become what? Beyond proportion it will increase, and therefore it will become explosive in nature. So, we will be seeing many aspects of nuclear fission First, why exactly this process takes place? Okay. One reason we already said the nucleus is very heavy and the force will become repulsive when it wants to break down. Now, this concept can also be explained by a model that we call, that model is called liquid drop model. Will we see what is liquid drop model actually? Liquid drop model of fission. Liquid drop model of fission. What exactly is this liquid drop model of fission? See, the nucleus which is heavy, as I said already, is unstable. So, a neutron is here. This neutron is being fired into a drop. This drop is represented by uranium nucleus. I will take this as a liquid drop. Now, this drop captures this fast moving particle, that is neutron. A drop which is big enough and highly unstable. In fact, the particles inside, they have these protons and neutrons inside this liquid drop. There will be certain force among them. Now, this force can be considered as what? Surface tension, which is surface force acting on the surface. Now, the force becomes repulsive because the particles are very densely packed. Now, when this particle enters inside this nucleus, then this particle has got energy. So, as the particle will be entering inside this liquid drop, then the liquid drop will be what? Unstabilized further. It will destabilize the nuclear, the orientation of particles inside the nucleus, because each particle is going to gain more thermal, more what? Energy, not thermal energy, more kinetic energy. Thermal energy too they are already having, and after the average kinetic energy is given by 3/2 kT. So, all these things are there. Some thermal energy is there, but that is negligible in fact, but the energy which is transferred by the moving neutron inside the nucleus as it is captured is very large. So, that makes these nucleons oscillate with greater amplitudes, and therefore, the forces on the surface become very weak, and then this drop becomes something like this. It becomes what? Elongated, something like this it becomes. Something like an ellipsoidal drop. Alright. So, these particles now, the drop swells up as the effective distance among them increases, and if the distance will be increased, then again the forces will become weaker. Finally, what happens that this drop becomes something like this, develops two lobes. And for gaining stability, the lobe breaks down from here and it releases two nuclei. One nucleus comes here, the other nucleus comes here, and also three fragments come, smaller fragment, these are neutrons. Right? So, this is the liquid drop model in which neutron enters the liquid drop which is already unstable. Now, the drop captures this neutron, and when the drop captures this neutron, it swells up because extra amount of energy is transferred to the nucleons. So, they will be oscillating with greater amplitude. Initially, they are oscillating like this, now they will oscillate like this. So, the drop becomes bigger and more unstable, right? And finally, it gets divided into two lobes for stability. These two lobes break apart to liberate two smaller drops, and three very small drops are released. These drops are like what? 3 neutrons. So, the release of these two lobes in fact is very crucial. These are smaller liquid drops, and each of them represents a nucleus. One is barium and the other is krypton. Clear? So, breaking down of the nucleus can be compared with this nuclear drop model in which the neutron is entering the liquid drop, destabilizing it further. The nucleus, the liquid drop is already unstable. When the neutron enters, it makes it more unstable. Therefore, the site where nucleus swells up, gets divided into two lobes, and finally we have these two smaller drops being formed, with each drop representing a different nucleus. Now, the key to this nuclear fission reaction is what? Capturing of neutron by the liquid drop, right? Or capturing of the nucleus by the nucleus. If this neutron is not captured by the nucleus, then what will happen? There will be no fission. Imagine this neutron moves with a very high what? Velocity, strikes the nucleus, and the nucleus is not able to capture it. Then what will happen? The neutron will go right through the nucleus and there will be no fission. Okay. So, what will be the conditions for sustained fission? This is very important for you. We will be discussing this. Okay. But before this, we will understand what is chain reaction. Chain reaction. Let us understand, children, what is chain reaction? What is chain reaction? Let us understand this, children. A chain reaction is a reaction which will proceed on its own when the reaction has been started. Okay. Once you push and start, then the process will go on its own. That is called what? Chain reaction. It will get triggered by itself and it will continue. Let us understand what exactly is the meaning of this term chain reaction. See, here I have uranium-235 nucleus. I will be writing only U for this, and I am bombarding it by using a fast moving neutron. Okay. Now, stage 1. Stage 1, what is happening, children? It is producing what? Two nuclei. One nucleus is here. This is barium. And the other one is krypton. And how many neutrons are being produced? One neutron is here. One is here. One is here. Clear? Now, each one of these neutrons will strike what? 3 more uranium atoms. Yes. So, this will produce now here 3 more neutrons. This will produce how many? 3 more neutrons. This will also produce 3 more neutrons. I am not writing barium and krypton. They are stable nuclei will be formed every time. Now, at this stage, again, each one of the neutrons is going to produce what? 3 more neutrons. Similarly, 3 more here, 3 more here, 3 more, 3 more. It will go on, and the number will go on increasing exponentially. So, this is what we call a chain reaction. Means once a nuclear fission reaction is started, the reaction can proceed on its own. This is called what? Chain reaction. Clear? Because for carrying the reaction forward, you require neutrons, and neutrons are being produced inside the reaction itself. One neutron is producing 3 neutrons, and 3 neutrons are producing how many neutrons? 9 neutrons, and 9 are producing how many? 27 neutrons. So, here we have 3 neutrons. Here you have how many? 9 neutrons. Here you have how many neutrons? 27. And out here we will have how many? 81. So, it is going in multiples of 3. It goes on increasing, and within no time, if you do not control the neutrons, then the reaction will become what? Explosive. It will go beyond control. Clear? So, we will be seeing what is the condition, what conditions we need for sustained chain reaction. So, what is chain reaction? Once a fission reaction, okay. So, this is called what? Nuclear chain reaction. Once a fission reaction is started, it can proceed on its own as neutrons are produced during fission reaction. But is it as simple as it is written? It is not. And they will ask in the exam also. How we can make a reaction, nuclear fission reaction, a self-sustained chain reaction. Okay. So, we will be seeing what are the problems here, children. See, the first key thing, okay, the first key thing here, if you see fission reaction is, this neutron is moving into the nucleus of uranium-235. Neutron is moving to the nucleus of uranium 235. So this neutron has to be captured by the what? Uranium nucleus. Very important. If you want to break a window, what will you do? If you fire a bullet, if you fire what? A high velocity bullet in a window, the window pane will make hole in the glass and will go through. It will not shatter the window pane. But if you take a stone and throw at the window, what will happen? The speed of the stone is very less, but it will break the window. Clear? Another example. Suppose a little boy is running. You can catch him and you can capture him. You can stop him. But if a cheetah is running, can you capture? No. If Usain Bolt is running, can you capture him? No. You cannot stop him. His velocity is very high. This is what is important. This neutron has to be captured by uranium. So the first thing, when I talk about conditions for self-sustained chain reaction. What problems are we having in maintaining a self-sustained chain reaction, so the reaction can proceed on its own smoothly without causing any damage, because it's releasing a lot of energy, and if that energy is not what? Controlled, then there will be a lot of damage. So how we can have a self-sustained chain reaction? You see, neutron has to be captured by uranium 235, and then what happens? If it gets captured, then gives us 56Ba 141 plus 36 krypton 92 plus 3 neutrons plus energy, which is 200 million electron volts, and we already saw. So the first condition is neutron should be slowed down. Now this is very important thing that you need to understand. See, this neutron, in fact, is a slow neutron. What neutron? Slow neutron. And its energy is about 0.02 million electron volt, approximately. See, the neutron which can bang into the nucleus and break it, it is not a very fast moving neutron. It is in fact a slow moving neutron having energy of approximately 0.02 million electron volt. But this neutron which is being produced here, this is a fast moving neutron. What neutron? Fast moving neutron. And this fast moving neutron has energy of the order of 2 million electron volt. So you can see this is about 100 times more energetic than what I require. So what will I do? If I want the reaction to proceed on its own, then I will make sure that I slow down the neutrons. The neutrons should be slowed down. Should be slowed down. So how will you slow down the neutrons? For slowing down the neutrons, let's go back once again. This neutron is having very large amount of energy. So once I write here 0 and 1 plus uranium producing what? Barium, krypton, and 3 neutrons here, 1 neutron here, 1 neutron here, and 1 neutron here. But the problem is that these neutrons will not carry any fission. They will not carry any. Why? Because they are so fast that even if a uranium nucleus comes here, this uranium nucleus cannot capture the neutron. They will just go through the nucleus. You got it? So we need to slow down these neutrons. These are slow neutrons, but these are very fast neutrons. We need neutrons, but we don't require these fast neutrons, so they need to be slowed down. So the first condition is neutrons should be slowed down. And for slowing down, what we do? We use moderators. Okay? So we use what? Moderators. So what moderators will be defined? Moderators are, these are materials used to slow down neutrons. So these are materials which are used to slow down neutrons. Okay. Now, for example, water. What is water? H2O, no? Then we have heavy water. India is an exporter of heavy water. D2O. We can use carbon. We can use graphite. In fact, India's first reactor at Trombay, Apsara actually uses what? Water as moderator. We can heavy water is most extensively used. India is a good producer of heavy water. India exports also carbon. Graphite can also be used. You must have heard of one reactor accident that took place in Russia, Chernobyl, and Chernobyl reactor was actually using graphite as moderator. Okay. So moderators are materials which are used to slow down neutrons. So how do they slow down? Let's try to understand. It's very interesting. We will be discussing again the same thing when we discuss design of a nuclear reactor. How we use moderator for slowing down neutron. See here, this is a fast moving neutron. This neutron is a fast neutron having kinetic energy of the order of 2 million electron volt. This is fast moving neutron 0 and 1. Now suppose it enters a chamber which is filled with water, or suppose this is filled with heavy water. Suppose heavy water, D2O. What happens is, when this neutron enters a chamber containing, for example, heavy water, then what happens? It collides with the hydrogen atoms. Now, hydrogen atom, we don't have to think all is protons. Hydrogen atom is 1H1, 1H2 in this case. So it collides with hydrogen atoms and transfers its kinetic energy like this. Suppose you take a ball and throw it at very high velocity in a chamber with very close walls. So what do you see? The ball what? Collides with all the walls, its speed what? Goes on decreasing, and eventually it may stop also. Though this neutron will not stop, very less probability of a neutron to stop. But what is happening? As it will enter the chamber, it will collide with what? All these hydrogen atoms. And it will start transferring its energy to hydrogen atoms. So see, hydrogen atoms have already got the thermal energy, 3/2 kT, depending upon whatever temperature they have, they already have this energy. But this is very low. It will not be able to impart a great velocity to them. But as these neutrons strike these hydrogen atoms, it will increase their kinetic energy substantially, and the kinetic energy of neutron will be reduced. Now this energy will be reduced to what order? About 0.02 million electron volts, and if it is allowed to strike a uranium atom, uranium-235 atoms after being slowed down, then it can easily conduct what? Nuclear fission. Clear? So first thing, in order to make a nuclear reaction self-sustained is neutrons should be slowed down. First one. Okay. Now second thing is, second condition, how will you be able to maintain self-sustained genes? Now, how will you be able to control the reaction? Next condition, number 2, neutron breeding should be controlled. Now this is very important. Neutrons being produced inside the reaction. I am using one neutron and this number goes on increasing exponentially. So if I slow down this neutron, imagine, if I slow down this neutron, this is a very high energy neutron, then how many fission reactions will take place here? 3. And again 3 will make what? 9, 9 will become 27, 27 will become what? 81, and then 243 will go on and on and on, right? So what will you find is that if I want the reaction to go on at a uniform rate, I do not want to make it explosive, then what will I do? I have to control the number of neutrons in the reaction, right? So how will you control the number of neutrons in a reaction? They are very high energy neutrons. So the only way is I have to absorb them and I have to remove. Clear? So neutron breeding should be controlled, and for this we use devices called control rods. So this is done by using control rods. So control rods these are materials used to absorb neutrons. For example, we have cadmium, boron, steel, etc. These are used as control rods. Using them, we can actually absorb neutrons and we can control the rate of the reaction. Clear? So, we understood that there are two very important factors for maintaining a solution reaction. One is that we should slow down the neutrons, and number two, the neutron breeding should be controlled. For slowing down neutron, we are using what? Moderators, and for controlling neutron breeding, we are using control rods. Clear? Control rods are made up of cadmium, boron, steel. They have large cross section area and they are capable of absorbing neutrons. Clear? So you understood what? That when you bombard heavy nucleus by the neutron, it breaks down into smaller fragments and large amount of energy is released. Right? Neutrons are produced and therefore the reaction can produce on its own. We also saw that there are means conditions for cell system chain reaction. There are two important conditions. One is neutrons should be slowed down, and for that I will be using moderators. And the second thing is that neutron breeding should be controlled. I mean, if you have one soldier produces 3 soldiers, 3 produce what? 9 soldiers, 9 produce 27. So it goes on increasing. You won't be able to win the fight. So you have to control the breeding of neutrons. Neutrons are actually the soldiers, right? And for this we have to use control rods. Control rods will absorb neutrons and they will remove neutrons from the reaction, so you can slow down the reaction. And this is done by using a factor that we call multiplicity factor. We call it what factor? Multiplicity factor K. Here I will be using a term called multiplicity factor K. So what is this multiplicity factor or multiplication factor also we call it? Multiplicity factor or multiplication factor is what? Suppose a fission reaction is proceeding. This is stage 1 of fission and this is on the left hand side. I have certain number of neutrons that have been injected and certain number of neutrons are here in stage 2. I have input how many neutrons, for example? 4 neutrons. And in stage 2 I found how many neutrons are there? 5 neutrons. That means the number of neutrons is what? Increased. So multiplication factor will be 5 by 4, which is 1.25. But suppose I input 4 and I control the number of neutrons and output is also 4, then it is 5 by 5, which is 1. Ideal case. And suppose I give 4 and I got 3, then it is 3 by 4, which is 0.75, less than 1. So number of neutrons which are present number of neutrons which are present in the beginning of a given process to the number of neutrons present in the beginning of the previous process. This ratio is called multiplication factor. K is equal to number of neutrons in beginning of a given process divided by, let K here, number of neutrons in the beginning of previous process. So K is equal to, you can say, number of output upon number of input neutrons. Clear? Output means the given process and input means the previous process. Clear? There are three cases. K is equal to 1 is called critical state. For critical state, K is equal to 1. Now, K is less than 1, it will become subcritical. And number 3, K is more than 1, will become supercritical. Clear? So now, if multiplication factor is 1, this is the ideal case. In this case, the state is said to be critical state, and size of the fissile material called critical size. We will be discussing that in nuclear reactor. K is less than 1 will become subcritical. K is more than 1 will become supercritical. So this is multiplication factor. For ideal case, I must maintain K is equal to 1. Clear? If K is less than 1, the process will go on slowing down and maybe the reaction will shut off. K is more than 1, the number of neutrons is multiplying exponentially and maybe the reaction will become explosive. K is equal to 1, the reaction will go on smoothly. Okay. So I hope you have understood all this.